I think I need a break after that dance. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the afternoon session. Well, first, Ivan, I just want to say to you, I am very honored and excited to be on stage with you to talk about what's so near and dear to us each and every day. I mean, this is the world we live, eat, and breathe, right? To be able to talk about, and of course, you know, being someone my age, I have to do this constantly, but to be able to talk about enhance and simplify customer experience.
It really is a partnership between technology and operations, because it's all about customer service, right? And so that is where we work together to ensure that we continue to deliver the best customer service out there. And you know, we've talked a lot about it today, is that where technology is an enabler to service. It is not the replacement of service, but is an enabler to great customer service. And really one of the things we've talked about today is we've talked about data, about the data being seamless in the enterprise and ensuring that it is a single source of truth across that enterprise. And you know, the other thing we've talked a lot about today is cloud. And you know, so we've had a lot of these big words we've used. Okay, data is seamless across the organization. We're talking about digital transformation. We're talking about the cloud and how we've moved a lot of stuff to the cloud. But to give it some context, I think there's a really small example that we can talk about how this is actually happening today. So today we have our profile ID system, which is in the cloud, integrated into our mobile product, is integrated into the booking tools, which are integrated into the reservation systems. Tied to that, as Erica mentioned earlier on, we've launched a new cloud telephony contact center, is we needed to deliver the profile information to the agent, recognizing who that phone number is, and deliver it real time. Now that conversation, I don't know, 5, 8 years ago, we would have been talking about a server. We'd have been talking about a firewall. And what cloud is about is you still have servers, you still have all those things, but we moved right to solutioning. We moved it, we created an API, we delivered it in the integration into our telephony phone system. So that's just a small context example of how we've moved technology and innovation into the cloud so we can deliver and assist and enable great customer service.
That's great. Okay, before I start though, I have to tell you a funny story. So I work very closely with Ivan day in and day out. I mean, you think about it, operations is his biggest internal customer, right? And so we work very close talking about what the initiatives are, where we are with those initiatives, and he's very thorough, super, super brilliant guy, right? So very thorough. And so when he talks to me, he'll have like a PowerPoint presentation. He goes through all the details. And then at the end of it, I'm like, you know, Ivan, that's so exciting. It's so exciting. What does it mean? So that said, I'm the person who tries to put it into a contextual term because I have to be able to visualize from that end to end what that means. So, you know, to piggyback off what, you know, Erica talked about earlier today, it is absolutely the foundation. And we are really excited that that foundation is now built. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means, you know, in this digital transformation world and the need for a more enhanced customer service, I mean, let's face it, we talked about it a few times today. We've had CrowdStrike, we've had Helene, we've had Milton, we've had the in-between thunderstorms. You know, travel isn't easy, and travel is very personal for sure. So what a travel consultant needs in today's environment is that information right at his or her fingertips, and bringing all those different channels that Ivan just talked about into that singular platform. And what I mean by that is in today's world, they're able to, you know, in today's environment, you know, they have to go to multiple systems, and that's all about keystrokes. It's all about taking the time to, someone calls in, they have, you know, previous to this new omni-channel that we have, They would have, basic information about an account, like a caller ID account, what team handles it, et cetera. In the new environment, it brings everything to that forefront for that travel consultant to be able to service that caller regardless of the channel, regardless of how they communicated with us previously, to be able to service. They don't have to go into the secondary systems or third systems to be able to do so. So what does that mean? What it means is before they answer that phone call, they know who you are, they know if you're currently traveling, they have the last multiple invoices that you have, because it may be something, quite simple, and they have all your profile preferences before they even access any of that information from a global distribution system or some type of point-of-sale application, which is super exciting, because when we talk about timing, and we talk about speed to service, speed to answer, speed to be able to help someone get on their way, all of that lessens the keystrokes. So I'm very excited about it, just for the mere fact that an agent's jobs today are very difficult, very challenging. So the more that we can do to help them, they're going to be able to help you better, right? So with all that said, Ivan, let's talk a minute about the digital optimization and personalization, because that goes hand in hand with this.
Well, I think one of the things that is that example when it comes into unified data sources, right? What's up there on the screen that's an example of where from an analog conversation, you're looking at that profile information. From a digital channel, whether it's our World Mobile product, that it's right there. Now think about, for that unified data source, is that you can go into World Mobile, you update your profile, real time it updates the booking tool, real time it updates the reservation system. So literally, you could go in a minute earlier and say, you know what, my preference today is I do not want to sit in the aisle anymore, I want to sit on window. Got hit by the cart, my knee's hurting, I'm never going to do that again. That information gets updated real time, so now when we're servicing through that omni-channel, that is real-time information, and it's a unified data source. It's just an example of, as we're going through this journey, and we talked about earlier, as to how we're moving to the cloud, how we're moving to the digital transformation, and having seamless data. And this is another way for us to really bring personalization as to how we communicate, whether we talked about Gen Z and how the mobile is really attached to that generation. I'll be honest with you, I looked out here and there's a couple people that might have been on their phone during presentation, so I don't know that we're that different from Gen Z. But it is a key strategy as to how we communicate to our customers, right? Is we have this information, we have the ability to immediately communicate through that channel. And just like we talked about earlier, is how do I want to be serviced? In the perfect world, I don't talk to a human being. I go look at my mobile. I look at this is where I want to go. I check in. I look at my invoices. Whatever I want to do, it's right there at my fingertips. But we all know, based upon recent events, is that there is disruption, right? There's no question there's disruption. So we need to make sure through that channel that information is at the fingertips that ensure that there's great customer service, whether it's digital or analog, is it ensuring that personalization of customer service is enabled.
No, you're absolutely right, Ivan. And I think it was brought up earlier that, this, as you mentioned, I don't think it matters which generation. People are using their phones, they're using technology. And so, in a world where most corporate accounts have a very strong online adoption, if they don't have a strong online adoption, their goal is to have a strong online adoption. But then you want that personalization from when you need to speak to someone. So maybe, 4 out of 5 times everything goes well, and then one time it doesn't, and you need to talk to someone, then you want to make sure that person who answers the phone, maybe they really don't know who you are, but you want to make sure that they feel and sound like they do know who you are. And that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure they get that proverbial hug, through the phone or whatever the means is of communication. And that, in today's world, can be challenging for those reasons. An average res team might have, 60, 70 accounts now, because the average online adoption's 80%, within that team. And what goes hand in hand with that is understanding, in this new environment, the sentiment. You know, the one thing that we always want to work towards is, you know, the optimal customer service. So to be able to measure the customer sentiment and to be able to action that in real time. Well, the technology that we have today allows us to do that. So we'll be, a supervisor or manager will know if somebody's having a challenging time on a call, and then we're able to collect that data and to be able to build processes and procedures and standard operating procedures for the front line, or whether it be, you know, support team or online help team, again, to be able to make sure that it's seamless for that user. And again, you know, the examples that I'm using is trying to put context around, you know, things that Ivan's talking about, of what that means in the real world, right? What does that mean for the person who's calling? What does that mean for the traveler? Yeah. So, with that said, I do think that the ability to push that information from those different channels is critical, and it could be on that front line, but it could be, you know, from a senior level as well. So I think, you know, as we build our new house with the fancy kitchen and the fancy bathroom, you know, those are the things that we're continually looking at. I know, Erica, you probably didn't know that that was going to be the theme for the day, did you, when we did this? But it is a good analogy, and it's one I think we can all appreciate when we talk about the building, you know, the structure. It's the foundation, it's the walls, and then it comes, you know, all the pretty stuff. So with that said, I do think, you know, we continually want to improve on that process. We continually want to personalize and be, you know, proactive within that. So Ivan, I think talking about proactive, I think we need to talk about, let's dig deep into PACE, proactive support, and predictive solutions.
So it ties back into that personalization conversation too, because actually they both tie together, right? As with better data and the ability to leverage that data, as we had the example today of ChatGPT, right? Where, hey, I'm gonna figure out what this is, but with having a modern ecosystem as we're moving this to this cloud, it gives us the ability to leverage tools like that. And we are actually doing that, whether that is within our contact center, and we have some examples of where we're doing it there, where we're doing this in our migration to the cloud for our reporting system, and the ability for AI to take advantage of that. And what it really comes down to is data allows customer service to be enabled at a completely different level, and working in partnership with an operations, with Pam's expertise as to how we give great customer service. And what's interesting is I've been in technology for a couple of years. I've been having this conversation about proactive and predictive analytics for a while. And I always think of this analogy as, you know, everybody wants to make sure when you're driving in the car that you're looking out the front window, i.e. proactive, predictive, that you see the corner that's coming up, as opposed to looking in the mirror, historical data, and trying to figure out when that corner's coming up. And I think with technology and what we're being able to leverage, we have some of our own private AI models, is that we'll be able to take that to the next level with large language modeling and leveraging that data ecosystem. We have the ability to be proactive, bring services, enable our operations team to reach out, whether it is a strike, whether it is weather related, or just in general associated to policy, is that we know that, hey, this is where the goal is. So we're on that journey of digital transformation. We're laying some foundation. We may have a cupboard up or a kitchen in, but that is really what we're focusing on, and how do we take it to the next level to ensure that you have excellent customer service.
And it really is that balance of self-service, you know, and service. So I read recently that there was a study of 62% of customers believe that experience should have a natural transition between digital and physical space. And we couldn't agree more with that. But, you know, there's something that I say very frequently, you know, being in operations, and I've said it my entire career, is how do you be proactive in a very reactive industry? It's quite challenging, isn't it? But it's imperative, because if you're not proactive in the places where you can be, and we've done amazing things over the years. So for example, some of the things that we have in place today is if there is a situation that's occurring out there in the industry, is we have systems that will document records and tell us if that record is eligible for a waiver. We have, you know, third parties that will send out, you know, delays or cancellations, you know, and that's through, you know, flight status type application. and they all work fantastic, but they're very much into their own silos, right? So what in this world, what it really will be doing is pushing it to the front, using AI, using tools to be able to bring it to the front, that they don't have to go looking for this information. And since we're touching on AI, and I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, I do want to share with you some of the things that we've done with AI in our workforce today, because many of you aren't aware of the things that we have been doing. And some people get nervous over that AI term, and I understand that. But it's that, again, it's not losing our core values. It's really enhancing our core values and allowing us to be able to provide that level of service that's needed. So what does it look like in our world today? What we do today is we have it integrated that, number one, very simplistic, it cleans up email boxes. So any junk, it removes it. So an agent, the focus is for the agent to focus on the customer. Don't worry about administrative work. Don't worry how, to clean up an email box. So that's very simple. Two, it makes sure that the email is going to the right place. So for example, maybe, the person who's emailing or chatting maybe needs online support and doesn't need the team. Well, don't go to the team. Go directly to the online support team. So that, number one, will improve the customer experience of the person who's emailing or chatting. But two, it also frees up the agent to answer the phone or emails or chats to be able to service the needs that that traveler may have that they need. So again, that may sound very simplistic, but when you're looking at the type of volume, when you're looking trying to scale that volume, and you're trying to optimize customer experience, it really does make sense. And so then what we did is then we graduated even more so for accounts that have forms. And some of these forms, they have to have them. They need them for auditing purposes. They need them as approval processes, et cetera. It doesn't change the form, but what it does do is if the form is not complete, it's going to send it back before an agent even has to look at it. Because it's a mandated field, go back and say, you didn't fill out, part 1, part 2, part 3. But then it also, because some of these forms are in PDF and they may be for guest travelers where there's no profiles. Well, the minute that a travel consultant has to manually input something, what does that mean? It means that there's more increase for errors to happen. And then, of course, that would be not great customer service and it'd be a poor customer experience. So what we do is we summarize the form into an email. And in that email, then the agent has to just cut and paste to be able to put it in the PNR, and that lessens, the percentage of errors that will occur due to that reason. So I did want to elaborate on that because now what we're going to do is we're integrating that into our new omnichannel, and we're going to start building off of that. Start small and start building. And again, with the number one goal of being able to make sure that we're optimizing, that service. So with that said, I think why don't we talk about performance measurement, Ivan?
Well, I think if you were to talk to my leaders, they probably hear me say this over and over. You can't manage without measuring, right? That's the key, is that how do we know we're actually improving? You have to measure. The data has to be good. Because at the end of the day, the key is great customer service brings profitability, right? That's the key. And a mature technology organization is an enabler and a partner in making that happen with operations and on those aspects. So it's always the focus is how do we enable that service to get to a different level? The expectation of customer service is always a moving target, right? Is today when someone calls, the expectation is, I know what you like, what you're doing, where you're going to want to go, and everything else about you. And we're not quite there yet, but we're on that journey to ensure that, one, personalization's good, but how do I validate that that's happening? And that's validated in a lot of different ways, is to, how do we ensure the metrics, as Pam mentioned, is the ability to understand, just by tone on a phone call, whether that was a good or bad experience. How do we learn from that? Those are just some examples of where we're always looking to measure as to have we reached our goal when it comes to enabling great customer service. And it's always a partnership from technology to operations on how we execute.
Absolutely. And of course, I love any and all feedback because the more feedback that you can receive, the better you can build, your operation and make it truly objective data. I don't know. Many of you probably know we have like an instant feedback that on your itineraries, where people can just like a quick 3-4 question and they can fill that out, and that's all well and good. I can tell you for the number of itineraries and invoices that go out, it's a very small percentage that end up being filled out. And then of course we have our account surveys where, some are very good about doing it regularly. Some just don't have time because travel's, just one of many things that they do. So as part of that policy and compliance and that sentiment measurement, some of the things that are on my wish list that will be in the next, what we call our optimization phase of our omni-channel, which is coming up now, Ivan, in what, 30 days? 30 days, and then 30 days we'll start optimizing more.
Yes.
Yeah, I have my list, Ivan. It's long. It's long.
I believe it's a little longer than that, but
it's like Christmas time, every time we have something, we add it to our list. But in all seriousness, though, is just imagine that, you call in and you have an option of leaving feedback. You have an option of survey. Were you happy with your service today? Or an email, having a little link on the email. Can you rate your experience today? So we can collect that data, and then if we get negative feedback, of course we never want negative feedback, but it happens, and we have to use that data, again, objectively to start building standard operating procedures, to enhance that customer service, because that's our number one, commitment. Is everything that we do is around customer sentiment as being positive, because if that is not real, then nothing else matters, right? So with all that said, to be successful, we have to be able to make sure that we have the information to be successful. And even though, I hope a big message that everyone's hearing today with all the sessions is it's the core focus of everything that we're doing. And in this transformation world, and let me tell you, it's been a busy year. It's been a very busy year. But, I can tell you from my perspective that the things that we're doing, and on that wish list, though I joke about it, 2025 to me is just going to be so exciting, because 2024, being that transformation year, is just going to mean just amazing things for 2025. So with that said, I think that we can talk about time to close with Prevail.
yeah, well, I think one of the things related that we were just talking about is that, again, the core theme has always been, and will continue to be, great customer service, and technology is just a part of that. And that's how, by investing in all these technologies and all these initiatives that we've been talking about today, which is great news for me, is that, we're on this journey. We just didn't start. We've been laying foundational items for over the past couple of years, and we'll start seeing the fruits of that labor in the near future. And just to give you some examples of proof of concepts that we've done, is we did a proof of concept with a partner related to AI on looking up a reservation, telling an agent, okay, here's your penalties, here's what it's going to cost, summarizing that. Now, it was a proof of concept, but before you get to the functional operational level, you have to validate that it actually is going to work as intended. And that's the going back and forth with working with operations and all the customers of IT, is how do we ensure we prevail and that we deliver on our promises? And it is a journey, and we still are building the kitchen, the house, the bedroom, but it is exciting as to how fast, when we think about, since I've been here at World Travel, that we've come from that beginning to where we are today. We're actually talking about, hey, enabling AI. We've got an ecosystem of data which is seamless, it's talking real time on various places. So I think it's the beginning, and it's exciting as to what's coming in 2025, but hopefully you've already seen some examples of what we've delivered on mobile, on fintech, virtual card, things like that.
No, that's all great points. And I also think the timing is perfect, too, because I don't know if everyone in the audience knows that we have our own travel academy, because as we prepare for the future, we need the next generation to be able to, coming into being, a frontline travel consultant or online support, whatever they decide to do with their career. But as many of us know, there there was some reluctancy from this generation of coming into the workforce of being a travel consultant. You know, it was really not, people were not coming into the business, so we started our own academy. I'm very proud to say that we are at Academy 3 now. We're getting ready to launch 4. Monica's? I'm looking at Monica, is that right? Yeah? So, and it's been, the success rate has been unbelievable. So all of this function of AI and pulling things in through the omni-channel and helping that consultant do his or her job optimally, the timing is perfect, because for those of us who've been a frontline travel consultant, when you're new in any industry, right? And it's like the more information that you can have that's gonna help you do your job better, you know, is always welcomed. So with all that said, to me, it's just very, very simple. And again, I like to put things in simple context because it's how my brain works. It's really just building a strong brand around the business, building a strong business, building a strong brand to be able to, again, keep the customer on the forefront. And that's providing anyone internally the tools for them to do their jobs well, and then of course being able to use that centralized, as we talked about, doesn't matter the channel, it's all centralized, it's a single source of the truth, or one version of the truth, right, Ivan?
Yeah,
one
I like
version
that.
of the truth. Yeah, yeah. One version of the truth, and all that information gets sent out to whoever needs it, wherever needs it, and then that data collection comes through for us to keep on building. So from my perspective, you know, the future is bright, and you know, 2025 is going to be the year.
No, I couldn't agree more. And it really comes down to, I remember talking to a consultant early on in my career where he defined customer service as speed and accuracy. So the faster you get the right result, that defines customer service, because if you respond immediately and the data's bad, that doesn't do anybody any good, right? And if you respond perfectly, but it's 2 days later, doesn't do you any good either, right? So that's really what that journey is, and where I think technology is assisting and enabling great customer service, but it's always teamwork to deliver and ensure we hit our initiatives.
That's right. And that's a wrap.